I never thought I'd be the type to spy on my own family. But when you love someone, really love them, sometimes you have to do things that feel wrong to protect what's right. My name is Margaret. I'm 63 years old, and this is the story of how a hidden camera saved my son's life and nearly destroyed what was left of our family. My husband Tom passed away 4 years ago. Heart attack. Sudden. The kind that doesn't give you time to say goodbye. After that, my son David became everything to me. He was always a good boy, grew into a good man. When he married Sarah 7 years ago, I was thrilled. She seemed perfect for him. Sweet, attentive, the kind of daughter-in-law who actually wanted me around. And when they had Lily, my beautiful granddaughter, I thought our family was finally complete again. The hole Tom left felt a little smaller. David and Sarah lived just 15 minutes away in a nice neighborhood in Ohio. I visited them every Sunday for dinner, and sometimes I'd babysit Lily on weekends when they needed a night out. It was a comfortable routine, one that made me feel needed, loved, part of something bigger than my quiet, empty house. Everything was perfect. Until it wasn't. It started small, the kind of thing you notice but don't really notice, if that makes sense. About 6 months ago, I arrived for Sunday dinner and Sarah had a bruise on her forearm. Not huge, just a yellowish-purple mark about the size of a quarter. "Oh, that?" she laughed when I asked. "I'm so clumsy. Walked right into the counter while I was cooking yesterday." I didn't think much of it. Sarah had always been a bit accident-prone. There was the time she tripped going up their porch steps, another time she bumped her head on a cabinet door. These things happen. But then it happened again. 2 weeks later, another bruise, this time on her shoulder, visible when her sweater slipped while she was reaching for something. "The garage door," she explained quickly. "Wasn't paying attention when I was carrying groceries in." David was in the kitchen with Lily, helping her with homework. He didn't even look up. That's when the worry started to creep in, the kind that sits in your chest and grows, slowly, like mold in a damp corner you can't quite see. Over the next few months, there were more. A bruise on her wrist, a cut on her cheek, she said, came from Lily's toy, a limp one Sunday that she blamed on sleeping wrong. Each time, there was an explanation. Each time, it made sense. Each time, something in my gut said it didn't. I started paying closer attention when I visited. The house always looked tense. Not messy, not broken, just tense. Like the air right before a thunderstorm. Sarah would jump slightly when David entered a room. He seemed distant, distracted, sometimes irritable in a way that wasn't like him. Lily was quieter than usual, spent more time in her room. But whenever I asked if everything was okay, they smiled and said yes. Everything was fine. "Just work stress," David would say. "Just tired," Sarah would add. I wanted to believe them. God, I wanted to believe them. Then came the night that changed everything. I had gone to bed around 10, but I woke up at midnight with one of those feelings you can't shake. Mother's intuition, people call it. I called David's cell phone, no answer. I called the house phone. It rang 6 times before Sarah picked up. "Margaret? Is everything okay?" Her voice sounded strange, shaky. I had a feeling something was wrong. "Are you all right?" There was a pause. Too long. "Yes, everything's fine. David's already asleep. You know how early he has to get up for work." But I could hear something in the background. Not David's voice, but movement. A door closing. Maybe. "Sarah, honey, you can talk to me. If something's going on..." "Nothing's going on, Margaret. I'm sorry you worried. I should get to bed too. I'll see you Sunday, okay?" She hung up before I could say anything else. I lay awake the rest of that night, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. Something was wrong. I knew it the way you know rain is coming before the first drop falls. But what? And more importantly, how could I help if no one would tell me the truth? The next Sunday, I arrived at their house with a casserole and a heavy heart. Sarah answered the door with a forced smile and a fresh bruise on her collarbone, barely hidden by her scarf. "Lily's at a friend's house," she said. "David's in his office, working on some project for his job." We sat in the living room, making awkward small talk. I couldn't take it anymore. "Sarah," I said gently, "I need you to be honest with me. Is David hurting you?" The words felt like poison coming out of my mouth. My David? The boy who cried when he accidentally stepped on a caterpillar at age 7? The man who volunteered at the animal shelter every Saturday? But I had to ask. Sarah's eyes went wide. What? No. Margaret, no, of course not. David would never. She started crying. I can't believe you would think that. He's a good man. You raised a good man. Then where are these bruises coming from? I told you. I'm clumsy. I'm stressed and not sleeping well, and I bump into things. That's all it is. She seemed so genuine, so hurt by my accusation, that I backed off. I apologized. I felt terrible for even suggesting it. We ate dinner in uncomfortable silence when David joined us, and I left earlier than usual. But the doubt didn't leave with me. Over the next 2 weeks, I did something I'm not proud of. I started driving by their house at random times. Not stalking, just checking. I saw David leave for work at 7:30 every morning. I saw Sarah taking Lily to school. I saw them coming home, going about their normal lives. Nothing suspicious, nothing wrong, except the bruises kept appearing. I talked to my friend Patricia, a retired nurse. Margaret, she said carefully, if you think there's domestic violence, you need to report it, or at least talk to David directly. But I couldn't. He was my son. How do you ask your own child if he's become a monster? Then, one Saturday afternoon, I stopped by unannounced with cookies for Lily. Sarah answered the door, and this time, there was no hiding it. Her left eye was swollen, a dark purple bruise spreading across her cheek. Sarah. My God. I fell, she said quickly. Too quickly. Down the stairs. It looks worse than it is. Let me take you to the hospital. No. She grabbed my arm. Please, Margaret. I'm fine. It's just a bruise. Please don't make a big deal out of this. David appeared behind her. Mom? What's going on? I looked at my son. Really looked at him. He seemed genuinely concerned, confused even. Sarah fell down the stairs, I said, watching his reaction. Jesus, Sarah, again! He sighed, frustrated. You need to be more careful. Did you ice it? Again. She'd fallen before. Something clicked in my mind. A terrible, horrible thought that I couldn't shake. What if it wasn't David? What if Sarah was hurting herself? I know how crazy that sounds. Who would do that? But I remembered reading something once about people who fake or cause their own illnesses and injuries for attention. What was it called? Factitious disorder? Munchausen syndrome? But why would Sarah do that? She had a good life, a loving husband, a beautiful daughter. It didn't make sense. Unless... I went home that night and did something I never thought I'd do. I ordered a hidden camera online, one of those tiny ones that looks like a phone charger. It arrived 3 days later. The hardest part was finding a way to install it. I couldn't just walk into their house and plug something in without explanation. But luck, if you can call it that, was on my side. Sarah called me Tuesday morning. Margaret? I hate to ask, but could you watch Lily this Friday? David has a late meeting and I have a doctor's appointment I can't reschedule. Of course, honey. I'll be there. Friday afternoon, I arrived at their house at 3. Sarah left for her appointment, and Lily and I settled in to watch a movie. While she was engrossed in her cartoon, I excused myself to use the bathroom. Instead, I went to their bedroom. My hands were shaking as I plugged the camera into an outlet behind their dresser, angled so it would capture most of the room. The app on my phone showed it was working. I could see their bed, the bathroom door, part of the closet. I felt sick. What was I doing? Spying on my own son? On his wife? In their bedroom? But I couldn't stop. I needed to know the truth. Sarah came home at 5, thanked me, and I left with Lily's kiss on my cheek and guilt eating at my conscience. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept checking the camera app on my phone. Nothing. Just an empty bedroom. David and Sarah came home from work. Normal evening routine. They put Lily to bed around 8. Then they went to their room around 10. I watched them get ready for bed. Normal. Brushing teeth, changing clothes, nothing unusual. They talked about their days. Mundane stuff about work and Lily's school. David fell asleep first. Sarah read for a while, then turned off the light. I felt ridiculous. What did I expect to see? But I kept watching. Not every minute, just checking periodically. Nothing happened Friday night. Saturday morning, they got up. Normal routine. I started to think I'd made a terrible mistake. Then Saturday night, around 11:30, I saw something that made my blood run cold. David was asleep. I could see him on his side of the bed, chest rising and falling. Sarah was lying next to him, also appearing to sleep. But then she moved. Slowly, carefully, she got out of bed and went to the bathroom. When she came back, she was holding something small in her hand. I couldn't make out what it was. She sat on the edge of the bed for a moment, glancing at David to make sure he was asleep. Then she did something I will never forget. She pressed whatever was in her hand against her own forearm and dragged it. Even on the grainy camera footage, I could see her wince. She did it again and again, creating long, red marks on her skin. I gasped so loud I dropped my phone. When I picked it up with trembling hands, Sarah was back in bed, her arm hidden under the covers. She lay there for a few minutes, then got up again, went to the bathroom, and I heard water running. Washing the evidence, probably. Can you believe that? My daughter-in-law was hurting herself, deliberately, while my son slept beside her, having no idea. I sat there in my dark bedroom, my mind reeling. Why would she do this? What possible reason could there be? Then pieces started falling into place. The way she was always quick to explain the bruises, the way she seemed almost eager to show them to me sometimes. The way David always looked confused, frustrated, like he couldn't understand why his wife was so clumsy. Was she trying to make it look like David was abusing her? I checked the camera footage from earlier in the week, going back through saved clips. Wednesday night, same thing. She waited until David was asleep, then went to the bathroom and came back with what looked like a small object. She pressed it against her side, grimacing. Thursday night, she did it again, this time on her shoulder. I felt like I was going to be sick. The next morning was Sunday. Our normal dinner day. I had to act like everything was fine, like I hadn't just discovered this nightmare. I arrived at their house at noon, forcing a smile. Sarah hugged me, and I felt her wince slightly. New injuries, probably. From last night. Margaret, there's something I need to talk to you about, Sarah said once we were sitting in the living room. David was outside with Lily, checking on his garden. What is it, honey? She took a deep breath, and I saw tears forming in her eyes. I don't know how to say this. I'm scared. Margaret. My heart was pounding. Scared of what? Of David. She wiped her eyes. I think he's been hurting me. The accusation hung in the air like smoke. I felt everything inside me go cold. What do you mean? I asked carefully. The bruises, the falls. They're not accidents, Margaret. He gets so angry sometimes, usually late at night when Lily's asleep. He'll grab me, push me. Last night she pulled up her sleeve, showing fresh scratches on her forearm, the same ones I'd watched her give herself. He did this. I tried to tell him he was hurting me, but he just got angrier. She was lying, looking right at me, tears streaming down her face, and lying. Have you thought about what you want to do? I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. I need to protect Lily. I'm going to file for divorce. And, I hate to say this, but I might need to get a restraining order. I have documentation of all the injuries. I've been taking photos, just in case. Of course she had. Evidence for her elaborate deception. I need you to believe me, Margaret. I know he's your son, but you need to know what he's really like behind closed doors. I looked at this woman, this person I'd welcomed into my family, who'd played with my granddaughter, who'd hugged me and called me Mom, and I realized I didn't know her at all. Can I ask you something, Sarah? I said quietly. Why? She blinked, confused. Why what? Why are you doing this? Her expression changed. Just for a second, something flickered across her face. Fear? Anger? What are you talking about? I just told you David has been... I know what you told me. I'm asking why you're lying. I'm not lying. How dare you? I have a camera in your bedroom, Sarah. I've seen what you do at night. I've watched you hurt yourself while my son sleeps. The color drained from her face. For a moment, neither of us spoke. You're insane, she whispered finally. You put a camera in our bedroom? That's illegal. That's a violation of... Tell me why. She stood up, shaking. Get out of my house. Not until you tell me why you're trying to frame my son for abuse. Get out! David came running in from the backyard, Lily behind him. What's going on? Sarah, why are you yelling? Sarah pointed at me. Your mother put a hidden camera in our bedroom. She's been spying on us. David looked at me, shocked. Mom? Is that true? I couldn't lie to him. Yes. Why would you do that? Because I needed to know the truth. And now I do. I turned to Sarah. Tell him what I saw. Sarah was breathing hard, her face flushed. She's making things up, David. She's trying to turn you against me. I saw you hurting yourself, I said, my voice firm. Saturday night, around 11:30. You got out of bed, went to the bathroom, and came back with something sharp. You cut your own arm while David was sleeping. I have video evidence. The silence that followed was deafening. David stared at Sarah, his face a mixture of confusion and dawning horror. Sarah? His voice cracked. Is that true? No, she's lying. Let me see the video, David said to me. I pulled out my phone, pulled up the app, and handed it to him. He watched in silence. His hands started shaking. Oh my God, he breathed. Sarah, oh my God, what? Why? Sarah's composure finally broke. She collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. Not the delicate tears from before, but raw, ugly crying. Lily was staring at all of us, terrified. Mommy, what's wrong? David gently told Lily to go to her room for a bit. Once she was gone, he turned back to Sarah. How long? He asked quietly. How long have you been doing this? She wouldn't look at him. 6 months, she whispered. Why? I don't know. She was hysterical now. I felt invisible. You're always working, always tired, always focused on something else. I thought if you thought I was hurt, you'd pay attention to me. But then your mother kept noticing. And I panicked. I thought if I could make it look like you were doing it, then maybe. I don't know what I thought. She buried her face in her hands. I need help. I know I need help. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. David looked broken. You were going to accuse me of domestic violence. You were going to take Lily away from me. Over what? Attention. I'm sick, Sarah sobbed. Something's wrong with me. I can't stop. Every time I do it, I tell myself it's the last time, but then I do it again. I need help, David. Please. Should I have felt sorry for her? Part of me did. Mental illness is real, and whatever was driving Sarah to harm herself was clearly beyond her control. But another part of me, the mother part, could only think about what she'd almost done to my son. She'd been building a case against him, documenting false evidence, planning to destroy his life, his reputation, his relationship with his daughter. What do you do in a situation like this? David made the call. Not to the police, not at first. He called a crisis counselor, someone who could come to the house and assess Sarah's mental state. They arrived within an hour, a kind woman in her 50s who spoke to Sarah alone for a long time. When she came out, her expression was grave. She needs immediate psychiatric care, she told David and me. What she's describing sounds like a severe case of factitious disorder, possibly combined with other underlying conditions. She's a danger to herself, and honestly, she needs more help than outpatient therapy can provide. Sarah was admitted to a psychiatric facility that evening. Voluntary commitment, though the counselor made it clear that if she refused, there were grounds for involuntary. Lily stayed with David, confused and scared. I stayed too, sleeping on their couch, because David looked like he might fall apart at any moment. The next few weeks were the hardest of our lives. Sarah remained in treatment. Doctors diagnosed her with factitious disorder imposed on self, along with severe anxiety and depression. She'd apparently been struggling for years, long before she married David, though it had gotten much worse recently. David filed for temporary custody of Lily while Sarah was in treatment. He didn't want to divorce her, not immediately. He wanted her to get help, to get better. But he also needed to protect Lily, to protect himself. The legal situation was complicated. What Sarah had done was technically illegal, creating false evidence of a crime, but she was also clearly mentally ill. The district attorney ultimately decided not to press charges on the condition that Sarah continued treatment and stayed away from David and Lily until cleared by a mental health professional. I had to testify about what I saw, provide the video evidence. It was devastating. Seeing Sarah in that courtroom, looking small and broken, knowing that I'd been the one to expose her. But I'd do it again. Because David is my son, and he deserved the truth. That was 4 months ago. Sarah is still in treatment, though she's moved to outpatient care now. She sees Lily twice a week, supervised visits. She and David are separated, working through couples therapy to figure out if there's any path forward. I don't know if there is. That's for them to decide. As for me, I removed the camera from their bedroom. I apologized to David for invading his privacy, though he assured me he understood why I did it. He thanks me, sometimes, for trusting my instincts, for not looking away when something felt wrong. But I'll tell you what haunts me, what keeps me up at night. It's not what Sarah did, it's how long it took me to see it, how many times I brushed off that feeling in my gut that something was wrong, how close I came to never installing that camera, to just accepting Sarah's explanations and letting my son's life be destroyed. People always say, trust your instincts, but it's harder than it sounds, especially when it means suspecting someone you love of something terrible, especially when everyone around you is saying everything is fine. I learned something through all of this. Sometimes the people we love need us to see what they can't see themselves. Sometimes being a good mother, a good person, means doing the uncomfortable thing, the thing that feels like a betrayal. Because real love isn't about keeping the peace, it's about keeping each other safe. If you're reading this, if you're in a situation where something feels wrong but you can't put your finger on it, I want you to listen to that feeling. I'm not saying spy on people, I'm not saying assume the worst. But I am saying pay attention, ask questions, don't let politeness or the fear of being wrong stop you from protecting the people you love. And if you're struggling like Sarah was, if you're doing things you know are wrong but can't seem to stop, please get help. Before it destroys you and everyone around you, there are people who understand. There are people who can help. You don't have to do it alone. Lily asked me last week, Grandma, why did Mommy hurt herself? I didn't have a good answer. How do you explain mental illness to a 10-year-old? I told her that sometimes people's brains get sick, just like bodies get sick, and they need special doctors to help them get better. I told her it wasn't her fault, or Daddy's fault, or anyone's fault. I told her that her mommy loved her, even when her brain was making her do scary things. Are you going to keep us safe? She asked. Always, I promised. And I meant it. Because somewhere out there might be another David, another family being quietly destroyed by something no one wants to acknowledge. Someone who needs a person brave enough to look, to question, to act. And if my story helps even one person trust their instincts, if it saves even one innocent person from being falsely accused or one sick person from hurting themselves further, then sharing this painful chapter of our lives will have been worth it. Trust yourself, protect the people you love, and never, ever ignore that voice inside that says something's wrong, because sometimes it's the only voice telling you the truth.